Because you're listening to this podcast, I can make one pretty good guess about you, and it's that you are a learner. You intentionally seek out information and you actively learn. I'll also go on a limb and say that in your day-to-day or your week-to-week, whether at home or at the office or anywhere in between, all those places we find ourselves, you're probably also in a teaching role at some point. And as both a learner and a teacher, I've got something for you in this episode that I think you're really going to enjoy. It's called Bloom's Taxonomy. My name is Ethan Beute. I'm the chief evangelist at BombBomb, co-author of the book Rehumanize Your Business, the host of the Customer Experience podcast, and the co-host of the CX series on the B2B Growth Show. Now, I first learned about Bloom's Taxonomy back in elementary school in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They took some cut of us out of the elementary school, and a couple times a month, we'd go downtown to a place called the Spectrum Center. It was a really special learning environment. It was accelerated. It was creative. It was just awesome. And that's where I first encountered the taxonomy. And all I remember about it from that time, knowledge, comprehension, and application. Bloom's taxonomy is a hierarchical model to classify learning objectives and educational goals. Now, I didn't have the language for it at the time, but I knew back then that knowing something was not as good as understanding something, right? It's good to know it, but it's even more useful to understand it or comprehend it. And it's useful to know and understand something, but it's not nearly as useful as actually applying it, right? So you follow along here. It's hierarchical. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but around learning. So why am I talking about it here on the show? Well, I've found myself referring to it a couple of times in LinkedIn. It just seems relevant to a lot of conversations that I find myself in, because we're constantly teaching and learning in our roles. No matter what role we're in, no matter what industry we're in, we have to do a lot of teaching and learning if we're going to be effective in the work that we do. So I thought by doing this quick drive-by in Bloom's taxonomy, it would be useful for you in both of those roles. For example, it can be used across the entire customer life cycle and the entire employee life cycle, especially in spots like onboarding. As individuals and teams, we have some level of responsibility in learning, growth, and even change management among the primary stakeholders in our business, employees and customers. How do we move our customers to a successful point? How do we get them onboarded successfully into the product or service? What do they need to know? What do they need to understand? What do they need to actually do? What can they create? And the same goes, of course, for our employees. And for yourself, of course, whether in a formal learning environment or just learning and growing through things like books and podcasts, you can also think about where you are in the hierarchy on the topics that you care about. I don't think you'll be shocked to learn that Bloom's taxonomy is named for its creator, Benjamin Bloom. He created it in 1956, again, as a classification of learning outcomes and learning objectives. Decades later, in 2001, it was revised by Lauren Anderson and David Krathwohl. The original taxonomy, from bottom to top, again, think of it like Maslow's hierarchy or the now debunked food pyramid, that each one builds on the other toward the highest outcome. With Maslow, you've got physiological needs and then safety needs and then love and belonging and then esteem. And then, of course, the peak is self-actualization. With Bloom's taxonomy, learning objectives are hierarchical in this order from bottom to top: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The updated and revised version, again updated in 2001, is structured like this: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, create. So remember is knowing, memorizing, recalling, remembering. Understand, of course, is comprehending, organizing, illustrating, summarizing, right? Some basic manipulation of the information. Then you have apply, solving a problem, selecting a design, reconstructing a process, doing something with what you know and understand. Fourth is analyze, explaining a process, answering the why questions, getting to why things are as they are, analyzing what's going on in the application. Fifth is evaluate, making judgments, interpreting significance, illustrating relative value, taking the information that comes through analysis and making evaluations based on it. And the highest order is create, creating something truly new, designing new solutions, eliminating the least useful elements of a process or a project or a product. And when you think about things that you've created, you can understand how it was built on all of the previous pieces in the hierarchy. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. As you look at yourself, as you look at your new team members, as you think about your one-on-ones with people who report directly to you, as you think about your new customers and your longtime customers, when you think about new products or new services or new features, think about what mastery requires. It requires movement up the hierarchy. It requires building blocks. It requires sequences of training and activity. As we look to develop ourselves and as we look to develop the people around us, it can be helpful to keep this hierarchy in mind, to keep Bloom's taxonomy in mind, especially as you're analyzing and evaluating where you are and where other people are on things that need to be learned and things that need to be done.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. I had to take just a second today to share with you another podcast that's in my regular listening rotation. The Sales Engagement Podcast has some great interviews, and you pick up a lot of best practices from revenue leaders that are doing the job day in and day out. I've picked up so much learning from other sales leaders that are featured on this show. One of my favorites is 7 Things Marketing Wished Sales Knew About Nurturing Leads. So check out the Sales Engagement Podcast wherever you do your listening. And by the way, if you're not following Scott Barker on LinkedIn, you should do that too. All right, let's get back to the show.
I hope you found this helpful. If you want to see an illustration of Bloom's taxonomy, you can visit BombBomb.com. That's BOMB.com/podcast. We do summaries of every episode. You can go deeper. When I'm interviewing a guest, of course, I include video clips and a variety of other elements. I'm here to learn and grow with you. The goal of the Customer Experience Podcast is to create more alignment, holism, and intention across our teams and across our organizations, all in service of creating and delivering a better experience for our customers. That obviously requires a lot of learning and growth. If you've not yet subscribed, I encourage you to do so. I appreciate you listening so much. If we're not yet connected on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out. My name is Ethan Beute. Last name is spelled Beute. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks again.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you're a regular listener of B2B Growth, you know that I'm one of the co-hosts of this show. But you may not know that I also head up the sales team here at Sweetfish. So for those of you in sales or sales ops, I wanted to take a second to share something that's made us insanely more efficient lately. Our team has been using LeadIQ for the past few months, and what used to take us 4 hours gathering contact data now takes us only 1. We're 75% more efficient, we're able to move faster with outbound prospecting, and organizing our campaigns is so much easier than before. I'd highly suggest you guys check out LeadIQ as well. You can check them out at LeadIQ.com. That's LeadIQ.com.